Hey guys, welcome back for another installment of Neuro Life Skills with Dr. Dominic Federley and myself, Dr. Michael Longyear. Today, we have another fun guest on with us. This is Dr. Bob Bacon, who practices here in Atlanta. Dr. Bacon and myself have known each other for a while. He just down the street from us here in Atlanta at East Cobb Spine and Sport, and we've been practicing kind of down the street from each other for a while. And we always have a lot of fun when we get together, kind of cracking on each other and going back and forth. So Dr. Bacon is one of the best, chiropractors in the area that I know and in the world that I know, and he really focuses in on more the nutritional aspect of things. And what's fun is, Dr. Dom and I, we share some patients back and forth with Dr. Bacon. He gets to handle that kind of nutritional component for us, and then we can focus in on some of the more neurological aspect. One thing that we often teach a lot when we do seminars on neurology and those types of things is that, we can activate the brain and turn the brain on all day, but unless it has good fuel and good food, that doesn't go very far. So, one thing that we do, we have to pay attention to brain health and brain activation, absolutely, but you got to make sure there's good fuel for delivery in there. And I know no better person than Dr. Bacon to kind of jump into that conversation, because one thing that we've realized a lot in the nutrition space too, it's a really busy space, right? You can almost find a research article or someone wrote something or a blog or something on just about anything you want from a nutritional aspect. But Dr. Bacon has an interesting perspective that we've kind of talked about a lot that I really wanted to bring to the forefront. And because we get a lot of people that are doing the right things, right? They're already eating paleo, or they're eating this, or they're eating that. And that's awesome. People are taking those steps for their health. But Doc, what is, kind of along the lines of what we were chatting about, what's the big issue really with nutrition and even eating the right foods?
Yeah, I think it's great. You nailed it. I mean, everybody that comes in, and they look healthy, right? Everybody's looking healthy. They're feeling healthy. They're in these nutrition. They're eating their food that they're supposed to. But the problem is the soil's depleted. And if the soil's depleted, the plants are depleted. And if the plants are depleted, whatever we're eating is going to make us depleted. And so that's been back since the 1940s that they've done. There was a Senate document out there that was brought up that talked about how the soils were depleted, and there's been nothing done to rectify that. Now we can dive down that rabbit hole a little bit, but give me a chance. Then in 1993, of course, the World Health Organization said the United States actually now is 90% depleted in nutrients, in vital nutrients for survival of the human race. I mean, think about what kind of an impact that is. And to me, what I'm talking about is these are minerals and nutrients. In fact, that report also talked about the fact that you didn't really matter about how many carbohydrates, vitamins, protein. It was about you had no minerals to utilize the nutrients you were bringing in anyway. And that's where we start to see this. We see it falling off. And you and I both know when we start talking about the three that are really the top are going to be, of course, magnesium. We're going to talk about zinc, and I'll let you dive into magnesium, of course, for a minute. But, of course, zinc's for the immune system, right? We know zinc's great for mobilizing vitamin A and helping the immune system. We know that selenium, these are the top two. Zinc and selenium are the top two that they're saying are most depleted in. And selenium is going to be more for the cardiovascular. So what are the two leading causes of death out there, really?
Yeah, lifestyle-related conditions like heart disease and cancer and those kind of things.
I mean, here you go. And there's no studies that correlate those together, which is, it'd be neat to see it. So if anybody's out there thinking about it, we'll put Dom in charge of that. There aren't any studies out there that really put that correlation together, but I mean, if you're just thinking about what's going on, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And now you start talking about magnesium. Boy, magnesium is no longer just the poop vitamin, or the poop mineral, right? That everybody thinks that it is, right?
Well, it is great for poop. Don't get me wrong. So magnesium will help move things along.
But it's more about, like, they're seeing how magnesium now can get in and actually affect the brain. Yeah. And I'm just going to lob that over to you and really start to understand that with the alpha brain waves and everything that's going on with it. But we're seeing that now in the practice as this calmative, this nice, easy, this mineral that gets into the body and helps to deal with, childhood memories. I mean, just even like emotional stuff that's in there. Because people now, we both know, we all take care of them, they're so stressed out. And what is the adrenals use so much of? Minerals. Yeah. So they're burning through it constantly, and the body's so depleted. So even if we're eating it in, you're eating the nutrients like we are, you're not getting the minerals you need anyway. So we have this chronic, perpetuating disease process of high stress, low minerals, low digestion, and we're just getting more and more disease processes.
Yeah, so, I love a lot of things that you said in there, right? The biggest thing, I think, when we look at magnesium and all of those, zinc and selenium, and a lot of the other micro and macronutrients too that we're just not getting enough of, what we're seeing, kind of lobbing over the magnesium part, when we work with a lot of concussion, that's the big lead into concussion, right? The chemical cascade is that you're depleting magnesium. It's actually, magnesium is a plug that keeps the cells healthy, but keeps them closed. When they're not closed, they take in all of this excess fluid, so to speak, or negative ions, and they actually burst and they lyse, which is why you actually get, like when you consume things like MSG, it almost gives you symptoms that are concussion-like, because that same chemical cascade happens, and especially in the absence of things like magnesium and selenium too in that area of the brain. And as we kind of unwind that, the interesting part to me is that even if we eat perfect, I love what you said about it doesn't, we're all into watching macros and, we all got our
Carbs
Fitness Pal app and, 20, 30, 10, kind of looking at all of those things. And that's all great, and those are important things. But, you often hear me say, I love, focusing in on diet, but we need to focus in on diet for brain health and less for waste. Because if we focus in on brain health, the depression stuff, we help with that. We help with wanting to get out and move more, and the waistline just kind of follows. And I think we focus a lot on macros and those kind of things because we're focused more on weight loss or muscle building or those kind of things. And we oftentimes do that at the risk of depleting ourselves even further of other minerals and other nutrients just from not getting them in our diet. And now you're telling us that even if we ate everything right, we might still not get enough of the nutrition and enough of what we need.
And it's neat, even on that same kind of idea, humans can't even consume enough. Our stomachs aren't large enough to actually get the minerals that we need in, even if we did eat all the right foods. So it's one of those that just perpetuates the same problem. And I agree with you, because along those lines, when you start talking about depression or all this stuff about getting outside and helping with the brain and people aren't having that motivation anyway because they don't feel it. They're trying to eat their way out of these states by what? Ben and Jerry's, or their two best buddies, whatever it may be, to help create the serotonin levels to help them feel better. Like you talked about it too with the dopamine response and things like that. We're not getting them the right nutrients or the raw nutrients they need so that they can actually utilize the food that they're putting in.
Yeah, and that's an interesting concept. Really, when you talk about availability and that there's less even available there, it brings my mind at least to the utilization of. So you might give one person a certain dose of something, and they don't absorb it. And with me, I've had a ton of concussions, so for me, absorbability of nutrients is one of the pieces. And I know stomach acid being sufficient for me, and we have a really fun way of testing that. And
of course.
Cracks everybody up it's a burp test, really.
Yep.
So mixing baking soda and water, and you kind of experiment a little bit to see if you have a strong acid that creates a burp. And testing to see if you have enough stomach acid to break down the nutrient enough to get it absorbed so it doesn't hit up against your gut lining and create this more damage. I think it's an interesting concept when we talk about we only have so much available, but with what we have the ability to make it go further, whether we decrease our stress on our environment and make our body in more of a parasympathetic state. And that's something we can do through, all the things we've talked about in the past, whether it be exercise, mindfulness, even doing things like staying hydrated and getting adjusted. So these are all these pieces that, although we don't have as much availability as we like in our soil and things like that, there's things we can do about it, right? And these pieces that we can look to certain sources to help us, but we can look to ourselves as well to be the generator of something that uses it a little bit quicker. And then we can actually kind of feed off of it a little bit, and we get this healthy mindset that comes with absorbability.
Yeah, and totally. And I think that's where, as we start to utilize that absorbability is important. But it's also about what nutrients you need. What are those nutrients? To hear probably about selenium and zinc, of course, or just to hear that, the dialogue. There's other, like you said, micronutrients that we need too, minerals that we need also, that if you don't have somebody kind of walking through it, this is why the way we take care of our clients. I mean, like we'll send them to you if we have this, huge neuro or a concussion or something like that we feel is outside of our scope. And it's so great to have you guys right down the road, by the way. It takes a lot of pressure off of me. So I can just geek out with the nutrition. But it's so true, because when they end up coming to us, we can kind of sequentially upregulate and really measure what's going on versus taking a snapshot of blood work and going, oh, here you are, this is your problem, here's your pill. When really, wait a minute, that can't just be the only problem. And how does it translate into my brain, my body, my heart, and other concepts too?
Well, and I love that you went there with it, right? Because, you know, we're all different, right? Everybody's body, everybody's brain, everybody's system, everybody's stressors in life are a little bit different. So, you know, you often have people that want this kind of one size fits all, you know, kind of approach to things because it's easy, right? If it's just a package that I can go out, I can buy, I can take that, I can be good. But that's not how our systems work. Our stressors are different, our lifestyles are different, our previous life experiences are all different. So our emotions kind of run our system in a different way. And depending on what our stressors are, they change the nutrition that we have. You know, we hear a lot about genetics and, you know, well, my mom had this, so I'm gonna have this. And I love the conversation more into what's known as epigenetics, in that my mom breathed the same air and ate the same foods as I'm eating right now, so I'm gonna have that. In that we have a little bit more control over our epigenetic expression. And with that, because of the air you breathe or the food that you ate, your mineral deficiencies may be different. Than even the person living in the same house as you, because your experience before getting there was different. So having that approach and understanding that, you know, we can't just all take a multivitamin and have it be good. It would be awesome, and that's maybe a good place to start. But understanding kind of where those deficiencies are and where to look at some of that different stuff. And you know, that's one thing I've learned in just our conversations and in our conversations going back and forth is, you know, like Dr. Federley has some experience with concussion. So my experience of, you know, having a spinal cord injury is different than his. So our nutritional deficiencies are going to be different as well. And so how we approach where we need to go to work with that is different. And, you know, different ways of testing that and different ways of looking at it, but understanding that we're all individual biological creatures. You know, and again, that's one of the things is, you know, watching you do what you do at your office and kind of how you assess and how you get to where you're going with that. If you could just share a little bit about, you know, what you see as the biggest thing, and maybe even from a gender specific, right? Because I know what we see a lot is females typically drive more into certain conditions and males drive more into certain conditions. From the nutritional or functional nutrition aspect, what are you seeing in your office with that?
Well, I'll tell you, you know, I mean, here's the deal. Honestly, when it comes to most females, who handles stress better usually, the male or female?
Well, I don't know that I want to say that out loud.
My wife is careful. That's right. So when we start to see this, right, and what I see then on my end is a lot of the females that come in and have digestive issues, they're dealing with a lot more stress, and they don't have that outlet. And so to us, we try to give them an opportunity to go, okay, what else can we do to help support you with this? So we're seeing digestive issues. We're seeing hormonal issues, quite a bit. Males, on the other hand, a little bit different, right? They're going to have a little bit more of that stress response. They're going to deal with stuff. They're going to go and work out. They're going to exercise. But they're also going to have some things with more of the frustration, because men usually are trying to what? What side of the brain are they?
Yeah, typically more that left side.
So they're going to try and fix things, right? And if they can't fix it, they end up becoming more frustrated or, you know, stressed out, and that's that liver.
What I just learned is women don't always want us to fix it.
Oh, yes,
they just want us to listen. And I tell my wife that all the time, like, I love that you come to me with your problems, but I'm going to give you a solution. And she's like, I don't always want you to tell me what to do.
And here's what's neat, right? You know this at the high level of the brainwaves. What are we doing? At the end of the day, is talking and sitting down and going over really what we want to do?
No.
No.
No, we want to be quiet, shut it off.
Yeah, literally. In fact, after a full day at work, you know, and bless my wife's heart, I'll come in and
we're going to have her on one of these days.
So. Wow, great. So I'll be very careful what I say.
You better be.
No, so literally I'll come home and I'll flip on the TV or I'll relax, only because what have I done all day? We've talked through this process. So all you men out there, I mean, and if you want your relationships to work, you might have this dialogue with your wife to let her know, hey, listen, it's been a big day. I've had a lot going on. I'm going to just disconnect for a little while. And how quickly can men just shut it all off and just disconnect? So anyway, so we're seeing that in the office. And then the dialogue with the guys walking in going, listen, husband and wife will come in. We'll see kids, you know, doing nutrition. Once we see a life-changing experience with nutrition, the whole family comes. Because literally it's like, well, wait a minute, if Billy eats this way and feels this way, what happens to Timmy? You know, what happens
Yeah.
to Mary? I mean, it literally kind of just, it goes through the whole family and everybody starts to feel better.
Well, and the reality is everybody's got to do it together, right? You can't
Yeah.
have, you know, one kid who can't have gluten and he's watching his brother and sister eat pizza.
Oh.
You know, that just, it kills you, and you know it's killing them. So it's got to be that kind of village. But, you know, one thing that I want to touch on in that stress response with the female, you hear a lot about leaky gut. It's
Yeah.
almost kind of gotten overused to
Yeah,
a
yeah.
point. But if we're stressed, we don't create an environment to eat. Like Dr. Dom said, we're not creating stomach acid. You end up taking in these foods that are in an environment that's not ready to digest them. So you end up with these kind of partially digested things, and they cause damage in the gut, they cause damage there. And that's where leaky gut kind of leads to all of these food sensitivities. You can't turn the TV on without seeing an
Oh,
Everly Well
yeah.
commercial right now.
Yeah.
And it's great, I'm not doubting what they do, but it's because there's so much of that autoimmune, that inflammatory thing going on, because people are eating foods that aren't foods, and they're eating them in a stressed out situation. And here's the kicker, kind of back to what you were saying, they're not getting enough micronutrients and macronutrients, so the brain is suffering, which decreases our ability to handle stress, which decreases our ability to digest our food, which decreases our ability to absorb the little bit of nutrients and nutrition that we're getting, which causes more stress on our brain, which decreases our ability to, and so on and so on.
I'm
So
out of here. I can't. I'm already too stressed out already.
So we
Now-
throw these terms like leaky
Yeah.
gut in there, and you know the reality is, you know, we just got to get the system calmed down, give them, you know, the nutrients they
Right.
need to build that, and kind of go from there with it. Right?
And let me piggyback on that. And one of the things, I know you said something about how, like, what we see with males and females. To me, in my practice, you know, the only disease process, there's only two reasons we're ever really sick. You know, and I feel like we are animated Earth. There's nothing in me that you can't find in Earth.
Sure.
So the nice thing about it is we have to get our nutrients from the soils. So when we start talking about the disease process, and that's why it's kind of like you talk about males and females, but when you start talking about the disease process, two reasons: toxicity and deficiency.
Yeah.
I mean, and so guess what? If the soils are depleted, we're in trouble. And we know we live in a toxic environment. There's no way around it. I mean, it's just there. And that, like you said, perpetuates that same problem over and over. It's hard to really get away from it. However, there are some great nutrients that we use on a regular basis. That B vitamins are great, obviously. You just got to be very careful when to use B vitamins. This is where you can get in with some nutritional experts and they'll just start throwing stuff at you. Well, remember, B vitamins, guess what eats up B vitamins real quick?
Stress does, the
Yeah.
adrenals.
And so does yeast.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So when you start actually adding in B vitamins, sometimes, you know, your nutritional expert may give you, you know, B vitamins right off the bat. If you have yeast, all you're doing now is creating more of a problem. And so this is how we start to understand what's going on. This is the dialogue and the questions that you have to, you know, when people come in, you're like, okay, where are you? And then we kind of figure out, and we sequentially, what I love to say is we sequentially upregulate the system. So we start you off here and we see how you are in about 30 days. We're definitely on top of them a little bit sooner than that if we need to, depending on the condition that's walking in. But we go 30 days and we'll reevaluate in 45 or 30 days, and then we'll just reevaluate every time. And every time they come in, we're trying to give them this sequential upregulation to where they're feeling a difference. Because
Yeah.
then they kind of have that momentum and they get to, you know, they can hang on to that. And that's what I really appreciate about what we do with nutrition. And I hope that kind of helps you kind of get more of an understanding of what we're doing. And I think that's
Yeah.
important because when they come to see you guys, I mean, we're trying to fix a problem that they've had, and yet we don't know everything about them when they first come in. This is why we go through that report and report of findings or figure out what's going on, and then literally transition them into one exercise or another exercise. Heck, I've been under care with you. I mean, it's awesome. You come in, you see some work, you see some improvement, and then you push me even more. And I think that's what makes us piggyback so well with what we're doing. So.
Yeah.
And that's a great point what you say about reassessments, checking up on things here and there, is keeping in mind, I mean, people say this ad nauseum really, is you are what you eat.
Right.
But to keep in mind that really that building process isn't something that happens overnight, you know. If I take, for example, a vitamin and say, oh, I don't feel better and what's going wrong, what am I doing wrong? It may be a building process that your body needs to build more tissue and regenerate. So
Right.
knowing that these cells rebuild and they take time and they need resources, we might need a little bit of time to create an environment to absorb it better. We might need an environment to calm the stress. And you know, we've talked about this a lot as to, we can't necessarily put a halt on all stress going on. I mean, that'd be awesome
That would
if you
be
could,
sweet.
right?
Yeah,
Right,
right.
just the
Just
pause
stop
button.
having it.
Talking about
Good
stop
with that.
buttons. Yeah, that'd be awesome. But unfortunately, we don't have that. So what we do have is the ability to generate healthier habits. I mean, even down to, I mean, shoot, kind of how you said our genetics don't determine everything. I mean, how many times have we heard that, oh, well, I have this genetic thing and that's what I'm stuck with? Well, you know, we had a teacher when I was going through school that described it really well as that really genetics were the gun and the trigger is your environment. So knowing that it can be loaded and preloaded and you can really actually manipulate a lot of these things more than what a lot of people thought. So if that's the case, then I can change my triggers, I can change my environment in a way that I'm in a successful environment.
Right.
And even something down to, and I'm guilty of this, is, you know, eating like a bar or something like that really quick at lunch. But how much more effective and how much more absorbability will I have if, you know, I do something mindful before that, whether it's prayer or meditation or just
Slow
sit
down
and just stop and not driving while I'm looking at everything, turning the channel. There's something different to the chaos that comes with eating your food and like ravishing it versus just taking a second. And I usually notice it that day. So I say it's a building process, but
Right.
mindful steps each day that are good habits to allow your body to actually use it and actually grow from it instead of just being depleted by consuming more and more and more.
And I piggyback on that too. I mean, really having somebody to kind of give you those advice,
Mhm.
that advice versus it just being, oh, here, take these pills.
Mm.
Here, do these vitamins. That's all it's going to take to get you well, which that's not it. I mean, there's also about like, you know, sitting down and relaxing, having that mindfulness. You even talked about it when you, not tonight, but we've talked about this in the past, where back in the day when we used to have dinner.
Yeah.
I mean, remember that? Mom's in the kitchen, clanging pots around, getting things ready. Like, you're salivating, you're getting ready for dinner. I mean, it's all this,
Yep.
you're getting ready for the food. And then all of a sudden the food's served, you're sitting around the table. Not in my family, a lot of times, you know, there are families that we take care of, but like they're sitting around, what are they doing?
They're having
They're not even-
conversations.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, not
a lot
now.
of families now are
No,
doing
it's
this.
here and
Hopefully
yeah.
they're texting each other.
Well, really,
But I
really,
doubt it.
or they're watching this podcast, which is exactly, and
Which
then
is
having
what
a
you should be
dialogue,
doing, right?
you know, in the, you know, in the dinner table. But that's kind of, you know what I mean? It gets that body ramped up and ready for the nutrients that's about to come in
Yeah.
and supportive. And I think really, guys, what it all comes down to is making sure you're getting the nutrients you need in, but then also supporting your body through that process.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
it's about that.
And now that's not happening. Like even though people
No.
are sitting down at a table across from each other, there's not that process of cooking food.
Nope.
You know, most things, if you go to the supermarket, you'll watch people check out with a couple $100 worth of groceries and not a single bit of food in there.
Right.
Because it's all in boxes and in bags. And I get it, our society is fast paced now. You know, I'm not blaming anybody for not taking the time to, you know, put together a home cooked meal like grandma used to. But in understanding that, we have to be more mindful of it,
Oh, perfect.
right? Is if we want to absorb the nutrition that we have, we need to have that time. You know, the hour-long process that mom was putting together the food was preparing your system to digest it. Now we, you know, look up DoorDash and the doorbell rings and dinner's there,
Yeah.
and we eat. We might have gone right from running and gunning and working and all of that kind of stuff to doing that. So
Which is all that processed food anyway.
Right.
So then, and so we're not ready to digest it. It's there. We're there in a moment to eat it, and then we turn around watching TV or some sort of whatever news media or on TV or whatever. That's probably not the best for us to digest food anyway.
right, so
We
we
just-
end up with this environment that's deficient, right? And on top of it, you know, again, kind of going back to, you can't turn the TV on without seeing a supplement commercial, or especially on, you know, social media, there's a supplement commercial or something, you know, out there.
Or
And
drink
what I-
milk or whatever it may be too.
Yeah, we won't go down that rabbit hole. We're running short here.
Yeah.
But so, you know, basically what we're looking at is, what I really like what you said is that it's a busy space and we can do a lot of things even in the interest of trying to be good and get bad results. And something that we harp on a lot, you know, because we do the, you know, more neurotherapies in our office where you do more the nutritional counseling of it. And I often, you know, I associate it with this, or like this with people. If you get a $10 a month membership at Planet Fitness and you decide, I'm gonna work out and I'm gonna get this done, there's a certain level of results, right, that you get. There's a different level of results if you get that Planet Fitness membership and then you hire a personal trainer that comes to the gym with you and takes you to that next level. I looked at it like with CrossFit, because my first practice was actually at a CrossFit gym. And, you know, we saw a different level of results with people because you had coaches, you had a community that was there to support you in that. And, you know, that's what I think we need to understand, is that there's a certain level, they go to someone like you or someone like us because we coach you through it. It's easy to read read an article or watch a commercial and decide I want to take all these B vitamins or this supplement or that one, or again, there's so many brain health supplements out there right now because they realize people's diets are broken and their brains are broken. That's just where we're at as a society. So it's a busy space, and a lot of it is kind of garbage information. So I think the importance of, one of the biggest takeaways from this is understanding that going it alone is a really hard and sometimes difficult road, because there's a lot of stuff out there, and even doing, like you said, taking B vitamins is a great thing most of the time, unless you've got a yeast overgrowth or bacterial overgrowth, and then it's going to cause all sorts of havoc in your system. Taking magnesium, probably there's a few supplements I'm kind of okay with everybody taking. Magnesium's probably one of them. Vitamin D is probably another. But even at that, understanding that if you want to go to the next level, having someone walk you through it is of uber importance. So that, for me, would be a takeaway from this, and understanding that even if you're doing all the right things, you might not be doing the right things. And understanding that we might still need to reach out to somebody in your area that can help walk you through it and help make sure that you're getting the nutrients that your body needs, because it's not the same as what my body needs or their bodies need. Right. Other than, having that coach and that takeaway, is there one other takeaway that you'd want people to understand?
Well, no, I just think, literally, when you're talking about magnesium, shop on the outside of the grocery store. Really start to get some of that, that live food versus the everything that's prepackaged in the middle. I think that's important, and I do agree with you with getting somebody to help you and kind of ask some questions. We see people all over the country. It's one of those things that now with virtual, it's really not that hard to really be able to tap in and go, okay. I just think you want somebody, like you said, holding your hand and just checking in on you. It's not the Wild West. You don't need to go out there and just start grabbing supplements and see what happens. But I think it's one of the things that I agree with you on some of the supplementations. Add some things in there that are probably very beneficial. Micronutrients and the minerals are always going to be beneficial. But then, I would definitely find somebody to kind of help you, walk you through it.
Just understand you're not alone. We're going to do a lot of these probably on nutrition and how it kind of plays in, because it's a really busy space and it can be really confusing. I have patients, that have moved away that reach out to me like, hey doc, I don't, I feel like I'm spinning my wheels. I need to order a food sensitivity test. Where should I go? Or this thing. And it's like, just stop. Let's, slow down. I love what one of my teachers told me in school, because diet is a busy space, and he was our anatomy teacher, but he was a veterinarian actually by trade. And he said, the diet thing is a busy space. And he's a Texan. I was in Dallas when I was taking classes with him. Dr. Giggleman, best name ever also. But he said, if you want to know what an animal's supposed to eat, look in its mouth. And when you look in our mouth, you see 4 canines, which is about 20% of our teeth, right? So probably 20% of our diet should be meat. And the rest of it is all stuff to crush things like leafy vegetables and nuts and berries and those kind of things. So 80% of our diet should probably be that. And if we just start there, I think, like you said, I love that shopping on the outside of the grocery store. There's nothing good on the inside, really. It's all the live foods and all of that kind of stuff. If you start just there, and you start with some mindfulness before you eat, take some time to, think about what it is that you're going to eat. Think about, I love that Dr. Federley brought prayer into it, whatever that means for you. Connecting to yourself, connecting to the family, I think puts our body in a better position to absorb the little bit of nutrients that we're getting. And understanding that soil's been farmed out, and that we're probably going to need to get some help from elsewhere or from other sources. So, this has been fun. We always have a great time when we get together.
And we can always talk more about stuff. And we can go way down.
We could go for hours here.
There's so much with nutrition.
But everyone will be sleeping while they're watching. Hopefully not at the dinner table while they're watching this podcast. But, thank you guys for playing along. Again, wanting to build some neuro-life skills. And this one being that understand there's going to be some supplements that we probably need to take to supplement what we're not getting from our diets, and really what we're not getting from the soil anymore. But also that idea, piggybacking off of what Dr. Porter said about having mindfulness as part of our life, and understanding that that's also part of our diet, literally part of our diet at this point, because it'll set our body up to better absorb the nutrition that we're getting. So thank you guys for playing along, and we look forward to seeing you guys soon on another one.